Hey there! Welcome back to Reddit Dating, best channel for cheating stories. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more spicy stories. Back to Reddit Dating. I, 32 male, got an email from some woman about an affair my wife, 31 female, is having. My wife and I have been married for 2 years and have been together for 7 years. Our relationship is fantastic in every way. We don't get into fights or have arguments very often. When I checked my email this morning, like I do every morning, there was an email from someone I didn't recognize. When I opened it, the email said my wife was having an affair, which I discovered to be accurate. The woman went into considerable detail, presenting conversations and emails she had exchanged with the other person during their relationship. I didn't realize it was true until I checked my Facebook account. The same woman had left a message stating hello there. I apologize for the inconvenience, but I have some bad news for you. Please verify your email address again. After everything was said and done, it was discovered that the woman who contacted me was the wife of the guy with whom my wife is having an affair. What I'm hearing is unbelievable. This caught me completely off guard. I have no clue what occurred since our relationship was never in a horrible state to begin with. At this point, I'm at a loss on what to do. Story 2. My 38 female, wife of 16 years cheated on me, 44 male, with her boss. My wife had an affair with her ex-boss, who had left the company the week before, approximately a month ago, and I found out about it. We had both planned to go to a party in the city that night and then spend the night at a nearby hotel the following morning. Because our babysitter was unable to come on time, I was compelled to stay at home with our toddler, 5 years old. She made the decision to travel alone and spend the night apart from me. After a few days of oddity, I warned her that I was uncomfortable with it before she left for work the next morning. Normally, I wouldn't have been concerned, but my spider sense was tingling from the strangeness of the previous few days. That was the end of it, as she told me that there was nothing to be worried about. I awakened with a start and a knot in the pit of my stomach about 2:15 a.m. I couldn't sleep after that. Even though she just turned off her phone's location service, which should have served as a huge red signal, I didn't pay attention to it since I didn't believe it was significant at the time, so I checked it anyway. She turned it back on, and I could see that she was at an apartment complex that was a long way away from the celebration. She remained till 9 o'clock in the morning. When she returned home, I confronted her, and after a few half-hearted denials, she finally admitted that she had done it. There had been some groping and slash or oral earlier in the week, but it wasn't a drunken moment of weakness. She'd been thinking about it and prepared for it for a few weeks before she finally succumbed to her desires. She was well aware of what she was doing and seemed to be unconcerned about the consequences for the rest of the family. The ups and downs of our relationship have been many, and I haven't always been the finest husband. But I've never been unfaithful to her, and I admire her as a result. I feel that we were capable of overcoming whatever obstacles came in the process. According to what I can tell, she was looking for a quick escape from a husband and children who she believed were stifling her with their presence. It was a chance to go on a new and more exciting journey. It turns out that her ex-boss was just looking for a little bit more to supplement his income on the side. Despite the fact that she was still clothed in her evening gown, he compelled her to do the 9 a.m. walk of shame back to her hotel by herself, despite her protests. Oops. When she finally admitted to me that she had been unfaithful, she expressed regret and said that she wanted to continue her relationship with me. There's a chance her ex-boss would try to recruit her to work for him at his new company. She's really talented in her field, and I think his motivations would be more financial than she's not his type after all. I reassured her that this was not going to take place. She couldn't be with me while still working for the man with whom she had broken her engagement vows. I informed her that she needed to call her former supervisor and inform him that they were no longer able to speak with one another, and I wanted to hear her say it to him. She objected rather vehemently. The new role, assuming it comes to fruition, would represent a significant career boost for her. Turning it down would be a significant sacrifice, so I could understand some of the hesitancy. She asked if I could think about it for a day or two. She walked over to her mother's place for a few hours and returned to tell me that she'd chosen to make the call and forego the job chance. What she didn't realize was that I have access to her call logs since I got the phone bills. I could tell she'd spent an hour talking to her employer on her way to her mother's house. I didn't tell her I knew and had her contact her employer. She told him it was a major mistake and that they needed to break off all connection. He replied he understood and would respect her desires. That's precisely what I needed to hear. I then asked her whether she had spoken to her employer since he had sent her in a taxi back to her hotel. She said she hadn't. When I questioned her on this, she said, "If you want the truth, I sent him a text merely to check how he was healing after the party." I informed her that I knew this was a lie and that she chatted to him before returning home from her mother's house. I questioned her on the purpose of the hour-long phone conversation. She told me it was to discuss with me what she was going to contact him about later, the breakup call. Of course, this rendered the whole breakup call a load of rubbish. I informed her that I believed she had phoned him to inquire about the possibility of a relationship. She denied, but couldn't explain what the heck they'd been talking about for so long. Finally, she admitted what he'd said: "You should attempt to sort things out with your spouse. If not, we'll have to wait and see." So my intuition was correct. She had to decide whether to decline the potential professional opportunities since she needed to find out what her alternatives were. If she could have both the job and the man she was in love with, she would take it. If that didn't work, she decided she'd rather lose the job and be with her family than be alone and perhaps or might not obtain the job. For what it's worth, I ultimately advised her to take the job if it was given to her. I don't believe he would, since after he had with her, he would be putting his job at jeopardy due to the drama and consequences. My wife had an affair with her ex-boss, who had left the company the week before, approximately a month ago, and I was unaware of it. We had both planned to go to a party in the city that night and then spend the night at a hotel nearby. Because our babysitter was unable to come on time, I was compelled to stay at home with our son 5 years old. She had made the decision to travel on her own and spend the night away from home. I told her I wasn't comfortable with it before she left for work the next morning. Normally, I wouldn't have been concerned, but my spider sense was tingling from the weirdness of the previous few days, and she seemed relieved. She reassured me that there was nothing to be worried about, and that was the end of the conversation. A knot in the pit of my stomach awakened me at 2:15 a.m., and I sprang out of bed. Even though she just turned off her phone's location service, which should have served as a huge red signal, I didn't pay attention to it since I didn't think it was a big deal at the time. When I looked up, she was at an apartment complex a long distance away from the party, which I assumed she had turned back on. Despite the early hour, she remained till 9 o'clock the next morning. My husband and I confronted her when she returned home. After a few half-hearted denials, she finally agreed to admit the truth. There had been some groping and slash or oral earlier in the week, but it wasn't a drunken moment of weakness. She'd been thinking about it and prepared for it for a few weeks before it happened. Although she was well aware of what she was doing, she showed no concern for the consequences it would have on their lives. The ups and downs of our relationship have been many, and I haven't always been the most supportive and understanding spouse. But I've never been unfaithful to her, and I really care about her well-being. It is my opinion that we could have overcome the difficulties that emerged. Her appearance suggests that she was looking for a quick escape from a husband and children who she believed were strangling her in their own homes. It represented a chance to go on a new and more exciting journey. It turns out that her ex-boss was just looking for a little more money to supplement his income. Despite the fact that she was still clothed in her evening gown, he compelled her to do the 9 a.m. walk of shame back to her hotel by herself, despite her protestations. Hoops. As soon as she admitted to me that she had been unfaithful, she informed me that she had made a mistake and that she wanted to continue in my relationship with her. If her ex-boss finds out about her new job, he may try to hire her for the company where he now works. She's really talented in her field, and I presume his motivations would be more financial than. She's not his type. I reassured her that this was not going to occur. This woman couldn't coexist in the same space as me while working for the man with whom she had broken her vows. When I informed her that she needed to call her former supervisor and inform him that they were no longer able to connect, she expressed interest in hearing what she had to say.